If we have guardian angels, do we also have personal demons?
Well, it depends on who you're talking to. Now, there are certain kinds of demons. There's demons and daemons, Daemons. They're Olympic spirits. Those aren't really demons, but the daemonic, Daemonic, are beings that are detached and they go in between it's Greek. They go in between humanity and the gods. They're communicators. They are very, very detached. They're not personal. Um, Demons, specifically, there are billions and billions and billions. Now, there's a certain belief in demonology that you have a birth demon. And the reason you have one is that's who teaches you about earth. You're in a physical body. The purpose of evil and of demons is to hold the world in place. They all escaped from their, and I don't mean physically, but the energy shield broke back during the last war in Atlantis. For the past 100,000 years, these beings have been, you might say, wreaking havoc on Earth, but we, the people, allowed that to happen. So in the great invocation, when it says, and we will seal the door where evil dwells, let light, love, and power restore the plan on earth, that is the end of Capricorn. That is when we people will be evolved enough to seal that door and to seal them back to where they are doing what their job is. Part of why they're pissed is that they are not allowed to do their job fully. And I say that with trepidation because there are religious people that are terrified of the demonic and of evil and of Satan and all and it's the fear is what attracts it to them. If you understand that everything is on this earth in accordance with God's will, I want to say to those Christians, do you believe or not? Do you believe in what you say or don't you? Well, I do, but these are awful and they tempt me. Well, yeah, because your emotions are out of control. That's a very, very long subject, and I've written a lot on it, and we'll get into it more. But you do, in that belief system, have a personal one. And I won't get into that anymore, but it's nothing that is going to hurt you. The purpose is to go, this is what earth is. This is why you seek God. And that's their real message to you.
So it's not a haunting or a horror movie type scenario. All beings are part of the divine plan.
Well, they are, but there are some truly awful ones out there because their whole purpose is the materiality and they keep drawing people back to hurt. It's very complex. I don't want to get into it right now, but there are some, and some do hate humanity because they're in a world now that they don't belong. They don't belong here. You're wandering around in a world that you don't belong to, so they keep trying to hurt, to get back. It's a very complex subject. Well, all demons are evil and they hate. Well, we understand what evil is. That is true, but they don't all hate.
Humans do a pretty good job of hating as well.
Yeah, it's funny. Every time we get ready to do this radio show, I grab my cup of coffee and I say to my husband, well, we're going to go tape the show. Let's see who I can piss off today. Because I don't agree. Nobody agrees. None of the groups agree with me, but that's not the purpose of it. The purpose is I'm just a research analyst disseminating ideas from different belief systems. You figure out what you want. If you think that God is in a big balloon and the balloon hangs over your house and you pray to that balloon every day, good on you. How do I know it's not true? That's not what I believe. But the purpose of life isn't to follow other people down a deep, dark hole and then blame the people for the darkness. You will find God in the dark. Why would you look for God in the light? You already have the light. What we want to do is involve the energies of the Godhead of divinity into our hearts. And that's implosive, not explosive. You bring it further and further into you, it gets deeper and deeper and quieter and quieter. And it's a practice and it's hard. When people used to go into the monasteries, this is something that Carolyn Mace talked about, which I found fascinating. She said people used to go into the monasteries, the nunneries, and spend years and years in prayer before they asked the question, who am I and who is God? Because it can drive you insane. So be careful what you ask for. If you get too much too fast, you might go totally nuts. Why? Because you're pouring diesel gas into a vehicle that can't handle it and it'll explode. Do you see that? So the people say, oh, more, everything, all change is good. More, what? They have no boundaries. And that's a stupid thing to say and do. It really, really is. And I know y'all laugh about this joke about my new age friends think I'm this and that, and it's hysterical. But they drive me crazy at times because they say everything's okay. It's not okay. Not everything is okay. There's some deep, dark, evil things happening on this planet. All you have to do is look at the news. But it's where we are. But you're not going to get away from it, so you have to learn to temper yourself to get shrewder and get kinder to yourself. And if somebody messes you over, go, well, that's what that cost. They just stole $500. Well, that's what my lesson cost. I'll never do that again. So if we can learn and change and grow and be shrewd and not think everything's about us, it's not. Everything happening is not about you. And if you are out there screaming and yelling because somebody didn't give you the right change or this or that, that's been building for a long time. All of these hysterical things you see on YouTube about these wackadoodle people losing their shit in public, that's not a one-time thing. That's been building. That's a tornado that's been building out of sight for a long, long time. And it finally just lets loose because they haven't properly exposed that energy to the clear light of day. So we have to control ourselves. We have to self-manage. We have to do self-critique. We have to say, that was wrong. Now I'm going to fix it. That was wrong. And on the other hand, if somebody does something to you and you want to ask they ask whoever does something wrong, or perceived as wrong, because it's usually perception. Say, well, I did this to you. Do you forgive me? Don't ever do that. And I'll tell you why. If you've hurt somebody, you've taken something from them. Now you ask them to give you something else. Well, I've hurt you, but now you owe me to say you forgive me. That's just bizarre. So go, no, I don't. Take your religious dogma somewhere else. I don't. I need time to process, and I may never talk to you again, or I might see you tomorrow. But you have to have the dignity and the self-respect to learn how to say no. And you'll be saying it a lot.
Getting used to saying no takes a lot of self-control often as well.
Boy, it did for me. I tell the funny story of how I learned to say no back in the 80s. And I said, the Spirit was like, get off the fence, Zoli. Get off, make a decision about your life. I'm like, huh? I thought everything was okay. Duh. Why is your life wackadoodle? So every telemarketer that called, I would just go, no, 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 no. And sooner or later, I'd realize, wait a minute, they want something. They want something. And I'll tell you another funny thing. If somebody asks you a pointed question, you need to think. Think for a minute, because what they're asking you is not what they want to know. That's a cover, and it'll come out. But it's a cover for what is really, really going on. And you probably don't owe them any information. Now, if it's a family member, that might be a little different. But there are over 8 billion people on the planet. Most of those people you will never meet, and you don't need them in your life, and they don't need you. So, who do you have in your life? If you do a quick assessment, sometimes it's kind of interesting to look at who's in our life and who we don't want in our life. You know, by the time I meet somebody, before they open their mouth, I've read them. I've made my decision who you are. Sorry. That's just, I don't know where it came from, but I can do that and I do it. I'm not a nice person, but I'm a kind person. And if somebody says something to you, we've covered this before, and it's threatening or rude, smile at them and say, excuse me, and turn around and walk away. And even if they're going, hey, come back here, you don't have to do that. Don't let yourself be bullied by bullies, because that part of you, that inner child, will be kicking you. And it's a hard, hard lesson. I speak truth about that because I spent most of my adult life just being pushed over because of the social mores I grew up with. Is it wrong? Well, it was a lesson I needed to learn. So what? It's over. Go drink some coffee. So I don't know. Go get some endorphins.
What's the difference between being nice and being kind?
You know, nice is so weak because it says, I'm going to do what society says I have to do. So I will weaken myself in your presence. I will weaken myself so I'm not a threat to you. You see that? Now that's not saying you shouldn't have some social graces. It's wonderful to have social graces, to come into a gathering and ask people how they are and listen, or don't. But to not go, here I am, but go, there you are. Those are social niceties, so to speak. But that is temporary. That comes and goes. But to be kind it's a lesson on how to treat yourself around other people. It has nothing to do with the other person. Nice has everything to do with the other person. And we're just being weak and scared. Sometimes we don't know what to do. I spent a lot of years doing that, but I was raised, I call it Southern Jewish aristocracy. We had a lot of rules. We had to dress a certain way. We dressed for dinner. We had this. It was a very different kind of old Southern life. When I think about it now, I hated it because I wanted freedom, but I was also a brat in a lot of ways that I was growing up. You're just a kid. But when we bring that into our adult life, nobody's being truthful. A nicety, somebody might say, oh, we'd love to take you out to dinner. Most of us would go, and I had done this before. Sure, yeah, give us a call. When you're going, I cannot stand the sight of you. So who's being honest there? That's nice. The thing to say is, I'm just not doing that right now. That's honest. That was freak people out. But it's honest. And if somebody says, well, why not? Just say, I'm just not. I did that the other day. They looked at me like I had a horn growing out of my forehead. But I don't want to be around that energy. Plus, I can only eat about 8 things because of my dietary restrictions. But you have to think about situations and practice it and think, what are the consequences? If I'm not nice and if I'm honest and somebody says, oh, we like going here, do you want to go? And you just go, no. Oh my God. What can happen? So you have to practice that stuff. You don't have to be mean or say, well, I'm just being honest and then let loose with something mean. That's not honesty. That's meanness. I don't know how those words even got together. So it's something that you have to practice. It also has to do with the society that you live in. If you live in India or if you live in Canada or the United States or Peru, you're going to have different cultural things that you do. And social niceties and kindness is different than just being nice and getting along and being agreeable and weak. And it's awful. It'll get you into trouble. It's lying. It's being a liar. But then what has happened now with a nicety, let's say it, you give somebody something and you never hear from them. What has happened to that? I like to read Dear Abby. I think she's awesome. Dear Abby's daughter, Jean, now writes it. God help her, I can't imagine. But most of what Dear Abby is about, people don't know what to say or do because we're not allowed to be honest. Oh, this person said this. What should I do? I don't want to go on this trip. What do I do? Well, you just say no. You just say no. But her wisdom usually says to figure it out yourself. Try this, but figure it out yourself. She says that in many ways. But she is basing that on Western American culture. So if you have parents that are maybe from the old country, I've got some Vietnamese friends. Oh my God, their parents don't even speak English. They're living 3 generations in a house. You have 3 different differences in behavior and an understanding of what's nice and what's right and what's not. So we have to figure this out, but I think to step back a little bit, just step back. And I used to feel forced to have to answer right then. Because that's how I was raised. You answer right. Somebody says something, you answer right then. And it caused me a lot of grief. And it took me many, many years to finally say, I'm just going to back up a little bit. Now, also, if I see somebody walking around the room I don't want to talk to, I'll avoid that person. And they probably will avoid me. And that's smart. That's not nice. That's being honest. We don't connect. And it may not be hostile. It's just we have nothing to connect to. But the kindness, if somebody does something, you want the reciprocity to say thank you. It's not that hard. Dear Abby and a couple of the online psych people, every week there's 2 or 3 letters. I gave this to this person or my grandkids or my children. I never even know if they got it. Nobody says thank you anymore. So why do you think that happens? It's not hate. It's a change in values and mores that we're not taught. But also there's consequences. When I was growing up, if you didn't write a thank you note in the old South, oh my God, and you write it within a certain period of time. Under threat of my mother, so maybe mothers aren't threatening their kids to do that. I don't know. So mainly the solution that Abby and these other people say is quit giving anything to them. Well, I can't do that. That's my grandchild. Yes, you can. Just stop. Just stop. But we're not honest.
Yeah, that niceness really does have a fakeness to it. And I really appreciated you describing kindness as being honest with yourself and others, but not in a mean way.
Oh, honey, we have to start with ourselves first.